Oh, hi MTV, welcome to my crib. Today we have a top 10 favorite classic video. I know, you've probably watched 1,000 videos like this, but you know what, I'm allowed to live. Okay, I made a list. It took me 10 minutes. So this might not be the most comprehensive, real, true list, but it's what we have for now. I just checked my Goodreads and tried to remember my favorite classics. Oh, and I have a Coke, a Diet Coke with me, even though I'm pretty hyped already. I don't know if it ever happens to you with Diet Coke, but for me, I feel like it's doing something to my head. I feel like it's kind of hurting. I feel like it doesn't make me feel good. And what's interesting is that I have low blood pressure, so I do need caffeine, but I can only truly get it from chocolate and coffee. I can drink any energy drinks, for example, because I feel like I'm going down. Anyway, top 10 classics, let's go. Number 10 on my list is, oh, this is really dusty. It's The Great Gatsby. The Great Gatsby, what do you know? I read this when I first started this channel. It was about 3.5 years ago. This is a copy that I received and it has a bunch of ripped pages, which is why I named the channel Rip That Page Out, because I was reading this book at the time. For the life of me, I can't remember what this book is about. The back is gonna enlighten us. Invited to an extravagantly lavish party in a Long Island mansion, Nick Carraway, a young bachelor who has just settled in the neighboring cottage, is intrigued by the mysterious host Jay Gatsby, a flamboyant but reserved self-made man with murky business interests and a shadowy past. As the two men strike up an unlikely friendship, details of Gatsby's impossible love for a married woman emerge until events spiral into tragedy. I just watched Genius, which is a movie about the relationship between Thomas Wolfe and his editor Max something. I'm gonna put the name here. And this editor has edited a bunch of very famous authors like Hemingway, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Thomas Wolfe, and a couple more I'm gonna put on the screen here. So we also got to see a little bit of Fitzgerald in the movie, and it was just so fun. It was so fun to see that. We can go through some of the notes that I took. Also, I remember the ending of this book being insane. I don't know, it gave me such a cathartic feeling. Anyway, some of the notes that I took. Well, I didn't take that many notes, but I did underline a bunch of passages. The modesty of the demand shook me. He had waited 5 years and bought a mansion where he dispensed starlight to casual moths. Yeah, I don't know what that's about, but I think the writing in this is beautiful. And all the time something within her was crying for a decision. She wanted her life shaped now, immediately, and the decision must be made by some force of love, of money, of unquestionable practicality that was close at hand. I feel like this book is one of the books that people lie about reading, when truly it's not that crazy. You can just read it because it's no War and Peace. Also in Genius, Jude Law's character, which is Thomas Wolfe, comes with a 5,000 page book to, or is it? No, it was with his first book that had a lot of pages, like 1,000. And then they had to make that much shorter. And Thomas Wolfe basically says to his editor, well, I'm paraphrasing, but he says something along the lines of, well, you can't cut this much out of my book because what if you did this to Tolstoy? You wouldn't have any War and Peace. You would just have war and nothing. And I thought that was really funny, but the way that I said it wasn't funny, so let's just move on. Okay, the next book was one of the first classics that I've ever read. Truth be told, I was so intimidated by classics back then, but I did it, and it became one of my favorite books. And he became one of my favorite writers. Yeah, that's right, it is Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde, The Portrait of Dorian Gray. But this one, it says The Picture of Dorian Gray. Anyway, I have two editions in Romanian and in English. I read this one. I had just started getting into annotating my books and I took a bunch of notes on this. I had so much fun. I remember being so happy reading this. More so because my fear of reading classics evaporated when I read this. My other copy that's in English has Ryan Gosling on the cover. Doesn't he look like him? That's Ryan Gosling. Hey girl, I'd sell my soul for you. Dorian Gray might be as pretty as a picture, but he's paid a devilishly high price for it. He'll stay drop dead gorgeous, but there's something nasty festering in the attic. Wow. I actually just found a film called Wild. It's about Oscar Wilde's life, or a period of his life. Oscar Wilde is played by Stephen Fry, and we have Jude Law again. I think he plays Oscar Wilde's love interest, though I'm not really sure, but I can't wait to watch that movie. This book made me feel so many things. It was fantastic. If you haven't read The Picture of Dorian Gray yet, or The Portrait of Dorian Gray, pick it up. You might find your next favorite book. I'm gonna translate this, but it says, if I don't know the taste of victory, at least I am... If I don't know the taste of victory, at least I'm saved. Wait, no, let me search that. If I don't know the taste of victory, at least I am exempted from the hurt of... I won't try to translate stuff anymore. If I don't know the taste of victory, at least I am freed from, I am free from knowing the hurt of losing. Okay, let's take another one. Maybe I can do better with another one. The reason why we like to judge others so much is that we're afraid of the bad that they could inflict on us. The reason for every optimism is always, I was gonna say fear. Fear is always pure fear. Okay, yeah, those are the words. No, I can't talk. But anyway, pick this book up. Number 8. It's Of Mice and Men by Steinbeck. Oh goodness. This was my first Steinbeck. And I remember reading a Romanian edition the first time I read it, and the only time I read it. I was working at a used bookstore. I didn't even buy the copy that I read. I just took it home for a night, read it that night, and then put it back on the shelf in the bookstore. Can we please take a moment to appreciate how beautiful this looks? Look at the edges too. Yellow, I promise they're not yellow from the passing of time. You already know that I love books about struggle. We all know that. We all love that about me. Or hate it. But I'm gonna tell you what it's about in case you haven't heard of it, because there are people out there that haven't heard of this book, I suppose. Traveling across America in search of who you are. Now they do it on cycles, in cars, by bus, or in the time-honored tradition of foot and thumb. The wanderers of today may wear their hair long and speak a different jargon, but their trip is one that men and women have taken for as long as this country has been pushing at its frontiers. Steinbeck also has a book on traveling across America with his dog Charlie, which is also a great book. That's nonfiction. When I heard of it, I was mesmerized. I needed to read it. Steinbeck is great. But also, apparently he wasn't the best husband. Steinbeck writes of such a trip in Of Mice and Men, the desperate longing of men for some kind of home, roots that they can believe in, land that they can care for. Yeah, I just need to make the parenthesis that he does write about something that he knows of. So he went traveling across America. He writes about people that went traveling across America. A lot of his novels take place in Salinas, California, which is the place he grew up in. This beautiful, timeless novel speaks of the love that men can feel for each other. One inarticulate, dumb, sometimes violent in his need, the other clever, hopeful, and tied to a responsibility he thinks he doesn't want. Now we are getting to a book that I read recently. Say it with me. Watership Down by Richard Adams. I just found a great edition of this book. It has this cover, and I ordered it. I need to go pick it up one of these days. I can't wait. It did say that the front cover is deteriorated, but that's okay. We can work with it. I don't mind it. I have a bunch of disheveled books, so it's fine. But this cover speaks to me so much. If I'm not mistaken, it might be from the actual movie. So if you ever want to read this book, also watch the movie after, but I mean the original movie. Richard Adams did say that the rabbits in the movie aren't his rabbits. I did feel like Bigwig, for example, was presented as a much more maleficent being than he actually is in the book. I feel like the point of the book couldn't be found in the movie. I feel like it evaded the whole movie. Now, Watership Down is about rabbits, talking rabbits, feeling rabbits. They need to survive. They need to make ends meet. They need to find does. They need to procreate. They need to be rabbits. And it's a book about friendship, and it's a book about love for your friends. And it's also a book about war. It's everything you would want. The next one is The Machine Stops by Ian Forster. Listen, I first heard of this book on BookTube. Thank God for BookTube. So many notes on it. It's so good. So The Machine Stops was published in 1928, and the other story in this book, The Celestial Omnibus, was published in 1911. This book contains two stories, the ones that I just mentioned. The Machine Stops is basically a book about how these people live in kind of a machine, and the machine stops. It's very 1984-esque. It's very Brave New World-esque, but before them. And The Celestial Omnibus is a story about a kid who gets into a celestial omnibus. He has the time of his life and nobody can believe him. And I loved it. Ian Forster, from that point onwards, after I read this book, has become one of my favorite writers. Look at him. Nice man. Nice man. Number 5. This is Albert Camus, The Stranger. The writing on this is so big. My edition is like it's written for grandmas. I read this when I came home from a party. It was about 5 to 6 a.m. I came home from this party. I was living with my parents and I was really getting into coffee. And I had one of those instant coffees with milk, the powdered type. I made that and I stayed up to finish this book. I read this whole book at 5-6 a.m. after a party. Again, it's not that big of a book and the writing is so gigantic too. I just remember the way it made me feel. It was so nice. This is how I got into Albert Camus. I will say I read The Myth of Sisyphus and I didn't like that. And I read something else from him, Create Dangerously. And I enjoyed that too, but couldn't really understand it. I feel like Albert Camus is one of those philosophers that I have to truly work to comprehend. But this book, The Stranger, I felt like it spoke to me. I think that's why I liked it so much. The simplicity of it, everything that it entails, the way that it's expressed throughout the book is of such a sensibility. I could not go to sleep that night because I had to finish it. All right, number 4. We have Hermann Hesse. This is Demian. Such a beautiful book, so short. I actually first read it on my laptop. The entirety of it was read on my laptop. Look at this man. So slender. He looks like Slender Man. Hermann Hesse has written some of my favorite books. Siddhartha is one of them, which you're gonna see a little bit later in the honorable mentions. I composed a list of honorable mentions in about 3 minutes, so don't take it that seriously. Once again, this is a book about friendship, just like we talked about with Of Mice and Men, but this is taken to a whole other level. Emil grows up the creature of two worlds, the safe, clean, respectable world of parents and school, and another world, a place of danger and mystery. As he struggles between light and darkness, only the guidance of his friend and mentor, Max Damian, can lead him on a journey towards self-realization in Hesse's fable of adolescent awakening and spiritual enlightenment. So if you've ever heard of Hermann Hesse and if you have read anything from him, trust me, this is gonna elevate your experience with him. Okay, I do need some Coke. Just bought this Vaseline lip therapy with aloe. It sucks. Okay, the next book on our list is Notes from Underground by Dostoevsky, and I have 2 editions of that as well. This is in Romanian. This one I have not read. And this is a compilation of Notes from Underground and other stories. I don't know, man. I feel like Dostoevsky is that side of me that I am too proud to be. His characters, at least. His characters live to the fullest. I feel like they love to the fullest. They have no sense of ego. They're not scared to put themselves out there and live and love. Notes from Underground is a pretty sad work from him, if you ask me, but also it's a relatable one too. This is not a cry for help. The underground man casually dismantles utilitarianism and celebrates in its stead a perverse but vibrant masochism. The writing is amazing. Look how straight those lines are. I was not kidding. I was not playing when I annotated this book. Okay, before the second place, we're gonna talk about the honorable mentions really fast. We're just gonna go through them. The Happy Prince and Other Stories by Oscar Wilde. This book made me cry. If you like really compact stories, really meaningful stories, this has a lot of animals as protagonists, which I seem to really enjoy. The next one is Siddhartha, as I have already mentioned. Hermann Hesse, one of my favorite writers. Love this guy. Love Siddhartha. I feel like it changed my life, or it contributed to my life changing. Next, we have an Orwell. This is a clergyman's daughter. This clergyman's daughter had a lot of bad periods in her life. That's exactly when I like this book the most, at her very worst. Again, we have the theme of struggle, which is what I love most. We already know. We've got some Tolstoy. How Much Land Does a Man Need? Such a short book, yet so impactful because of the same reason that I just mentioned for A Clergyman's Daughter. But that struggle to survive becomes greed in this book. And greed kills. I cannot wait to get to Anna Karenina. I just bought it this month and that time's gonna come soon for me, so wish me luck. The last honorable mention is R.C. Sheriff's Journey's End. Such a good one, such a good one. The only play in this list, and I did not expect to love it this much. I did not expect it. The way that it makes you feel like you're right there with them. You feel like you're right on the ship with them. The action of this book happens in the First World War that R.C. Sheriff was actually a part of. What kind of soup is this, Mason? It's yellow soup, sir. It's got a very deep yellow flavor. And that is why I love this book. Okay, back to our top 10. My second favorite book of all time. East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I just had to get Steinbeck back in the game. I couldn't leave him behind. So when I read this book, I was waking up really early. Every morning I spent with this book was incredible. I have a really old copy of it. It's in Romanian. It's at my parents' house. It's falling apart. Honestly, I could barely even read the words because they were faded. This book is so long that in Romania, we split it in 2 volumes, at least when that edition came out, which was probably 30 years ago. My love for Steinbeck. It all started with Of Mice and Men, and it just kept flourishing. Because this book is so long, I got to form a relationship with it. I got to get to know the characters. I got to get to hate. I got to get involved, get truly involved in the story. And if you didn't know, this is somewhat of a retelling of the Cain and Abel biblical myth, but it's written in such a way. If the Bible was written like that, we would all read it. Now we're getting to my favorite book of all time. My favorite classic of all time is my favorite book of all time. I had to get up close and personal with you for this. Stoner by John Williams. I have to give credit to Anna Wallace Johnson for talking about this book in one of her videos, because I was under the impression that this book was about a guy who was using a lot of drugs. Probably because I read Junkie by Burroughs, and for some reason I thought they were the same book. So I did hear of this book before, but when Anna Wallace Johnson said that this book is not about that, I said, okay, then I'll just pick it up. And I picked it up. I read it on my Kindle, and then I bought a copy because I couldn't live without it. Currently, my boyfriend is reading it. I'm gonna read you one of my notes from page 23. It was after I finished the first chapter. One of the best first chapters ever written. I love how Williams shows us Stoner's struggle with literature, a sign of his developing love for it. So this was my second read, which I did not finish the book on my second read. Unfortunately, I'm at page 80. The way his parents are, how Stoner works and his estrangement from them, and the life he left behind. Unfortunately, he won't be taking his life in his own hands the way he did in this first chapter. Not from now on. This initial life-changing decision is the most consequential and beneficial he will ever take. This is one of the key reasons why this book is so good. Williams has you rooting for Stoner from the start. No, I can't even talk about it. That's what happens to me when I love something so much. It's so hard for me to speak about it, because I feel like words are really useless at that point. Sometimes you just have to get into something and that intention to come fully from you, because when I first heard Anna Wallace Johnson talk about this book, I had heard of this book before and stuff, but Anna Wallace Johnson liked it, but she wasn't crazy about it, which I think helped me not be so crazy about it either as to put it on such a high pedestal, so I don't want you to put it on a high pedestal if you ever do pick it up. You know, it's just another book, but it isn't just another book, really. This was it. Thank you for watching. Hope you pick up one of these books. That would be fire. That would be fire.